Have you ever had your therapist realize they're your biological father mid-session? I was telling Dr. Reeves about my abandonment issues when he suddenly went pale and asked, "What did you say your mother's maiden name was?" "Fitzgerald," I repeated, confused by the interruption. "Melody Fitzgerald." His pen slipped from his fingers. In 18 months of therapy, I'd never seen him lose composure. Now he was staring at me like I'd just pulled a gun. "From Tucson?" he whispered. "Yeah, how did you—" He stood abruptly, walked to his window, and stood there for a full minute. I counted the seconds on the clock behind his chair. Finally, he turned around. "Serena, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. When is your birthday?" "April 7th, 1996. He sat down heavily. "Your mother and we knew each other." The room felt suddenly airless. I'd been seeing Dr. Reeves for a year and a half, twice a week, unpacking trauma about the father who'd never wanted me, the father my mother refused to name. "Define new," I said carefully. He pulled off his glasses, rubbed his eyes. "We dated, briefly, in 1995. The math was elementary. I felt nauseous. "I need to check something," he said, pulling out his phone with shaking hands. He scrolled through old photos stored in the cloud, then showed me one. A young woman with wild curly hair and my exact smile standing next to a younger version of the man sitting across from me. My mother. Unmistakably my mother. "She never told me," he said quietly. "When she left Tucson, she just disappeared, changed her number. I tried finding her for months. I thought about all our sessions, how I'd described the hole my absent father left, how I'd said things like, 'What kind of man just abandons his child?' How he'd listened, taken notes, asked how that made me feel. Oh my God," I breathed. "You're my father." He was already pulling up a DNA testing site on his computer. "We need to be sure, but the timeline, your mother's name, the fact that you look exactly like my sister." I stood up, pacing the small office. "I've been paying you $200 an hour to process trauma about you." "Serena, I had no idea. Last month I literally said I hoped my biological father was dead." He flinched. "Yes, that was difficult to hear." "Difficult? You took notes. You asked if I wanted to explore those feelings further. What was I supposed to say?" "I didn't know." I grabbed my purse. "I need to leave." "Wait," he said desperately. "Please, just let me explain what happened with your mother." Against every instinct, I sat back down. Maybe because I'd wanted to know this story my entire life. Melody and I met at a conference in Phoenix. She was brilliant, studying biochemistry. We had 3 perfect months together. Then one day she was just gone. Her roommate said she'd had a family emergency back east. I never heard from her again. She found out she was pregnant, I said flatly. "That was the emergency." He nodded slowly. "I would have been there. I would have helped. I was already in my residency. I had means. She didn't want your help. She told me my father was a one-night stand who wouldn't have wanted us anyway. That's not true. I loved her. I would have married her." We sat in horrible silence. 18 months of sessions replaying in my mind. Every time I'd cried about feeling unwanted. Every time he'd handed me tissues and validated my feelings about paternal abandonment. "The dreams," I said suddenly. "You always asked about my recurring dreams." He looked confused. "The one where I'm underwater and someone's reaching for me but I can't see their face. You said it represented my subconscious searching for connection." "It does. You have a seahorse tattoo on your wrist. You told me it was because they're one of the only species where males carry the babies. Symbol of paternal nurturing or something." His face crumpled. Oh God. My mother has a photo of me at age 3 at an aquarium, mesmerized by the seahorse exhibit. She said I stood there for an hour just watching them. We stared at each other across the professional boundary that had just exploded into dust. "I can't be your therapist anymore," he said quietly. "No kidding. But could I be your father? Or at least could we try?" I thought about the family medical history forms I'd never been able to complete, the father-daughter dances I'd skipped, the wedding planning I'd been doing where half the aisle would be empty. "You know literally all my deepest traumas and secrets," I pointed out, "and you know my theoretical framework for addressing them," he replied weakly. It was so absurd I actually laughed, then cried, then laughed again. "This is insane," I said. "I'm going to need my own therapist after this," he admitted. "I recommend Dr. Chen down the hall. Just maybe lead with this story so you don't waste 18 months. He smiled sadly. "Serena, for what it's worth, every time you talked about feeling unwanted or abandoned, I wanted to tell you how wrong that was, how valuable and worthy of love you are. I thought it was just good therapeutic practice. Now I realize it was paternal instinct, maybe." I stood up. "I need time to process this, like a lot of time, with a different therapist." "Of course." At the door I turned back. "Did you ever want kids?" "More than anything," he said softly. "My ex-wife and I tried for years. It never happened." The universe, it seemed, had a twisted sense of humor.